how to recover fast from setbacks, regain perspective and self-belief, pick ourselves up and bounce back stronger. Stephane runs a coaching and learning consultancy based in France. He regularly facilitates leadership development and management programs. He's formerly spent more than 20 years in the field of international business. Stephane's going to be sharing his insights now for the next 40 minutes or so. After that, he's going to lead us through a very short meditation. The idea of the meditation is to go from words to feeling what the topic means to me. And then from there, he'll take your questions. So please send in your questions via the question and answer link or the chat, and it will be my pleasure to put those questions to Stephane on your behalf. Stephane, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much again. Thank you so much. So I've prepared a presentation for that. So I will share the presentation and I trust this will work. Yes. All right. So before we go and we delve into the topic, just imagine, please, that you hear the beautiful sound of a Tibetan bowl, and that leads you, to go inwards, because this is the end of the week and the end of the day. And in this week, you've had thousands or tens of thousands of thoughts. You've produced so many actions and words, and there has been also, of course, emotions and feelings. And so let us imagine that we hear the sound of this Tibetan bowl, and that we can go at the center of the self, a kind of eye of the storm. And my strong experience, and it is very much connected to this topic, is that each one of us already has inbuilt this kind of eye of the storm, where we can take refuge when the going gets tough. So just for a few seconds, I go within, I am in the present, I breathe gently, and I'm fully available and focused for the next minutes and moments. And I think I should thank myself to spend some time with other people who are really motivated to learn more about these beautiful topics, and especially in the current world, these topics, these themes are crucial. I mean, this is my personal experience. It's not even a point of view. This is my personal experience. And talking about personal experience, I would like to relate something indeed very, very personal, just so that we can launch really and we delve into the topic. So we are on September 1st, 2025, so not so long ago, and I am in my apartment. So I'm in Grenoble, in France, at the heart of the French Alps, and it's quite late in the evening, maybe around 11 p.m. And I don't feel really well. I don't feel well. I have, in truth, this taste of bitterness and these sour feelings, that are due to what at this moment, at this very moment, I would say is a kind of setback. And in fact, just a few hours prior to that, my mother, she was 95, so just passed away. So in the world of Raj Yoga meditation, death does not really exist. So we have this very nice expression that she left the body. So the soul left the body. And I had been with my mother for a number of years, and also my two brothers. We had managed to accompany her, over those last years, and we were quite happy of everything that had happened so far. But this very last day, and especially her last breath, her last gasp, did not go as I had imagined, as I had planned. And so I had this very deep feeling of not only bitterness, but also sadness, because, oh, that should have been, or that could have been different. But still, I managed to go to sleep. And as some of you may know, the Raj Yogis uh, get up quite early in the morning, to meditate. So I managed to get up early in the morning, and in the meditation, I was processing those thoughts, those feelings, and at what point there was this aha moment that, oh, uh, in fact, because this soul, of course, will go on in the next life, and these difficult moments that the soul had, it was a kind of burden, it was a kind of settlement that the soul had to go through. And that means that in the next life, things will be easier. And then all of a sudden, I felt myself much lighter. I felt myself much more at peace. And so these feelings of, bitterness, sadness, and again, of being at the heart of a setback or of failure disappeared. And then I remembered all the good times and all the good moments that um, I had the possibility to spend with my mother until the very end. So we will see in the progress of the talk that what I used in that very moment was a kind of stepping back and reframing the situation, which is a very important tool amongst others that we will discover together. And those tools, they really can allow us to bounce back, as RT was saying, to bounce back nicely. So just to precise also, that there would be many angles, many ways to talk about this subject. I myself, especially considering the times we are in right now, what is going on in the world right now, especially in the Middle East, of course, and your country is quite connected to that in one way or another. France, certainly, but maybe it's more incognito. So I have really considered that when we talk about bouncing back, we should really talk about resilience. So we are going to explore that in several ways. And then I will be very happy to answer your questions indeed. So we are going to discover what is human resilience. Of course, resilience, it's a bit like stress. This comes from the world of physics, in fact. They talked about how resilient is a material, and then this has been applied to us humans. So what is human resilience? And then just to let you know, to be careful, those three types of resilience that are mentioned here and that I'm going to explain to you, you will not find this in any book. You will not find this in any video on YouTube or anywhere on the web. This is really something specific, that I have developed, but it is based on reality and on facts, and it's just a way to describe three different dimensions of resilience. So let's delve into the topic. So maybe you will recognize those humans. Here you have Thomas Edison. Here you have J.K. Rowling, so the author who wrote the so famous Harry Potter books. And here you have James Dyson. So, by the way, two of them are from the UK, and the other one, of course, is American. I mean, to my knowledge, is American, but maybe not so long ago before he arrived in the States. Maybe his ancestors were coming from England. Anyway, as you may know, or you might have heard, Edison, before he managed to create this light bulb, he failed 1,000 times. 1,000 times. And when he was asked this very famously, he said, well, I just discovered 1,000 times that this light bulb could not work, but then that was just meaning that I should find the 1,001 way, or 1,001 way to create that light bulb. As for J.K. Rowling, fortunately for her, it's less, but she was rejected by at least 12 publishers, if I'm not wrong, before Harry Potter was at last published and then was sold in the millions of copies. And it's for Dyson, it's quite impressive. I think he tried to register or submit more than 5,000, IDs for his vacuum cleaner without bag, and it was rejected again, or it did not function. And it's only after, it was maybe 5,100 that he succeeded. And then, of course, we know now his company is doing quite well. So let us try to discover the common points that those people have, that have allowed them not to be defined by these setbacks, by these failures. And let us see how we can develop that ourselves. So human resilience does not mean, of course, that I will not face obstacles, that there will not be any storm in my life, that I will not have enemy. No, on the contrary, like for these individuals, there are obstacles, there are problems, there are challenges, but I manage to transform those problems, those challenges into kind of stepping stones. So the crisis becomes an opportunity for personal growth. So very famously, as you may know, there is a kanjin, so it's a Chinese word or Chinese syllable, which means at the same time crisis and opportunity. This is what we want to achieve. Let me transform what looks like a crisis into an opportunity. And this is, I would say, of course, I say that in a humble way because this is not such a big deal. But when I describe, what happened to me last September when my mother passed away, I was happy in a way because I managed quite quickly, to transform my mindset. My mindset was, being really gloomy. And just with a new train of thoughts, I felt much more light. And so let us learn this art. So there are three types of human resilience. And human resilience, again, there are many angles through which you can talk about it. But I would like to base this this theme on a model that has been proposed by an American institute, which is called the Heart Math Institute. They are very popular and famous, at least in the world of personal development, because they are the one who have made the practice of heart coherence very widespread. You know, this heart coherence practice, which will help you to manage your stress, manage your emotions quite easily, in fact, if you practice regularly. And in terms of resilience, they have a very simple but very comprehensive, very holistic model that will explain us that if a human being really wants to be resilient, and so of course then really wants to bounce back easily when there are obstacles and challenge, then that human being has to pay attention to those four dimensions: the physical dimension, the emotional dimension, the mental dimension, and the spiritual dimension. And I would like to now see how we can do that. And this is where I would like to coin this term of type 1 resilience. Type 1 resilience is this resilience that I can work on every day. Type 1 resilience is every day what I can do for my body. For my body, I wake up, maybe I will do some gym. I will flex my body. I will pay attention to my breathing. I will, of course, sustain my body with some very good food. I will drink, and so on and so on. And of course, I have to do that daily, but let me do that with more attention, perhaps being more mindful, perhaps being also more grateful. You know, gratefulness is also a great feeling, sustaining resilience. You know, you have in front of you someone who suffers from asthma, and 2 times it happened in my life that I had to be rushed to the hospital because I could really not breathe. And it's not it's not a nice experience. Even if you believe that death does not really exist, it's not a nice experience. And so now, really, you know, several times it happens to me during the week that, oh, I'm so grateful. My body, you allow me to breathe. I can even, you know, do some sport. I run, I practice tennis, and I'm very grateful. And I'm grateful just of, you know, for this very thin stream of air that goes through the nostrils and then, of course, goes out. So let me be mindful about that. Same for the dimension of emotions. The emotions, in fact, the scientists, they will tell us that certainly this dimension in peculiar that will allow, if we pay attention to it, that will allow us to have our, let's say, battery of resilience filled in, or on the contrary, to have it, you know, going towards the empty level. You know, you wake up in the morning, you're not in such a good mood, then you go in your car and something not nice happens on the road, then you go to the office and perhaps one of your colleagues is not nice with you. All these feelings that are not pleasant, frustration, a bit of anger, you know, all those ill feelings, even if their intensity is not that high, at the end of the day, they will really drain you. And so your resilience will be drained. And so if your resilience is drained, then of course, you will not be able to bounce back. Then I will delve more about the mental dimension. Mental dimension is even more important than we could think of. We have a specific slide for that. So this is the type 1 resilience. Type 1 resilience, there is no excuse. We can improve our type 1 resilience on a daily basis. We pay attention to the physical dimension, we pay attention to a kind of emotional management, and of course, we pay attention to our thoughts. Then we will explore the other types of resilience. So type 1 resilience, how to sustain that? I will not delve too much into each topic, but of course, in terms of sleep, you might have heard or might have read that our generations sleep between 1 to 2 hours less than the previous generations. You might not agree with me, but I would tend to think that the previous generations, they were more in tune with nature. They were more in tune with their natural bodily rhythm than we are. And so this is a big health challenge. And the doctors and the world of medicine is really worried about that. About food, there would be so many things to say, but of course, it is likely that for most of us, we we don't eat properly in terms of quantity. That's something, more and more obesity, unfortunately, in our modern countries and even in less modern countries. And the quality of food, more and more frozen food, more and more industrial foods, more and more foods with chemicals and so forth and so on. And not even mentioning about water. But so let me be clear about that. The wisdom from the East, I mean, I know especially about the wisdom of India, tells us that the food that I take, that I intake, that I put in my body might impact my mind up to 60, some would say 70%. And this is a natural wisdom, an ancient wisdom, that date back to thousands of years. But nowadays, this is really really validated by science because, as we know, the macrobiotics within us can really influence our mood. Someone who has a bad macrobiotics can become depressed. So let's pay more attention to our food if we want to be resilient. Physical activity, I will not explore that. That goes without saying. And then daily rhythm, also that goes without saying. We should try our best, to go to sleep at the same time every day. Of course, there can be some exceptions, but these exceptions should remain exceptions. We should do our best to eat at the same time. There is also a lot of studies, validating these ancient wisdoms. What is interesting is that if I pay attention to the fifth point, so the breathing, then going back here, I will improve the management of the physical dimension. I will improve the management of the emotional dimension, and I will improve the management of the mental dimension. So someone who pays attention to one's breathing, and it is likely that for most of us also, or at least many amongst us, we don't breathe properly. Our breathing has become too shallow because, for instance, as you know, sitting is the new smoking. So we sit too much in front of our desk, in our cars, or in the various means of transportations, of course, when we eat. So there is really a huge bonus if you pay more attention to your breathing. And for instance, if you practice some pranayamas, coming from the word of Hatha Yoga, or just practice heart coherence. All right. And so, sorry. the last point, but not the least, and of course, this is very much connected to the practice of meditation, and perhaps even more so to the practice of Raj Yoga meditation. Let us be mindful of our thoughts. So first of all, in terms of quantity, there are two models nowadays. There is one model that tells us that we create between 8,000 to 10,000 thoughts a day, but there is another model or other types of experiences that tell us that we create between 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day. So that's a lot. But whatever, the less I think, the better I think. We think too much, and that is not good for our brain. That will drain our brain, that will uh, drain the energy of the brain and our general energy. So let me practice meditation. Let me stop regularly during the day, apply kind of full stop and just be in the moment, as we've done at the beginning of this talk. Let me go into the eye of the storm. And so if I go into the eye of the storm, my own eye of the storm, where things are quieter, then I'll be able also to watch and to pay attention to the quality of my thoughts. And so I cannot delve too much into that. I would, recommend you to RT or to other, Raj Yoga centers, but definitely, it is one of the key points if you want to become resilient, more resilience, if you want to be able to bounce back, but just if you want to be happy, if you want to be a happy person, a peaceful person. As they say, I think it's in your own culture, sow a thought, reap an action, sow an action, reap a habit, sow a habit, reap a behavior, and so behavior reap a destiny. So we don't know how to think. It's not because we can we have learned to add figures and we can read. Let us learn to create elevated thoughts. If I create elevated thoughts, about the real self, the original self, and the beauty, about the beauty that is within each of us, then of course I will develop my resilience. Then I will have a top ability to bounce back. But on the contrary, of course, there is certain doom and gloom, as you say in your beautiful language, if I go into negative thoughts. And let me precise that negative thoughts are not only about myself. Oh, I'm worthless. Oh, I'm a failure, by the way. Oh, I'm not able to bounce back. And it's always the same with me. But it's also about life. This is also a very poisonous thought. Life is worthless, or every day is the same, and I meet always, the same kind of situations. And of course, worse than that, negative thoughts about others, they are so easy to create. This gentleman is like that, this lady is like that, and I don't like you because of that. And so many thoughts that are really a poison, and of course that will lead us in the wrong direction. So we have to learn how to create thoughts of quality, of course, to think less. And of course, for that, I'd say meditation is the golden road. It's the golden road to go in that direction. Let me learn to be more and more positive and to create elevated thoughts. So this is type 1 resilience. We conclude the type 1 resilience. Every day I should be able to work on that if I want to, of course, if I want to. Now, type 2 resilience, and again, I would like to remind you, this is not a vocabulary that you will find anywhere. This is my own vocabulary. I didn't find any other way, to describe that. Type 2 resilience, it's not every day, that you will reflect upon your core values, your purpose, the meaning of life, or the meaning of such situation. But this is what is type 2 resilience. But before that, sorry, uh, just very nice trick, about breathing when you are in an emergency situation, and this is a trick that has been offered to us by a neurobiologist from Stanford University. His name is Dan Huberman. The quickest shortcut that you can find to activate your parasympathetic system, and that's what you want, when you have some emotional stress, disturbance, you do like that. 2 quick inhales and 1 long exhale. Try it several times and you will see, you will feel centered, more grounded. You can try it right now. And again, this is just to illustrate the power of breathing, and again, how you can work on your resilience, the type 1 resilience, very easily if you pay attention to your breathing. But this is a kind of emergency tool, Now, going back to the type 2 resilience, just I would like to quote 2 historical figures. First one, maybe not that famous in England. I'm not so sure you would know this guy. His name is Boris Cyrulnik. He's a French psychiatrist, and he has a very specific story of resilience, because he lost his whole family, during WW2. And then still he managed to grow. He was an orphan, and he was raised as an orphan, and it was very, very tough. And of course, not any single relative, they were all killed in the concentration camps. But he says that his own observation, about his own life, and then um, observing so many people who face so many tough challenges, those people who managed to bounce back from failures, from situations of loss, situations, very, very tough situations, they are the people who are able to step back, reframe the perspective of the situation, and then give a meaning. So I would recommend, I'm sure that some of his books have been translated into English. He is very famous in Europe because he went to Romania when Ceausescu, the dictator, was removed from power. And then there was a very terrible situation with more than, I think, 100 or 200,000 orphans that who were put into very dire situations and circumstances, and so he could study those who were able to bounce back. So this is the key. If I can make sense of a tough situation, if I can make sense of the situation of, what I see as a failure to start with, or what I see as a setback, but then going into the eye of the storm, I will be able to give a different meaning. And this is one very important key. I think this is what I managed to do. And this is really thanks to my practice of meditation. Last September 1st, when first I was really sad, thinking of the last gasp of my mother, and then I could reframe what had happened. So again, really connected to type 2 resilience, I would really recommend to if you don't know this gentleman, is really fantastic. He himself, which is not the case of Boris Cyrulnik, but he was a grown-up during WW2, and he was himself sent to the concentration camp. And he was able to transform that as a kind of experience. Of course, he did suffer a lot, but he was able to step back again, and he was able to put some perspective. And sometimes, even within the camp, he was able to be happy, and sometimes with other fellows in the camp. And so the lessons that he has offered to the world are encapsulated, are in this book. If you have not read this book, please order it at once and offer it also to the other people, because this book is perhaps the key book for resilience, the key book for bouncing back in our life, because he really describes, of course, the terrible things that he went through, and especially as he was in the concentration camp. But then also he described it in such a way that when you end this book, you put this book on the table after having read it, and you feel enlightened. That's an amazing book, an amazing book. So what I like in this quote here is the absurd. Don't you think that today we are in an absurd world in a way? Meaningless wars started by just a few people, and so many, so much suffering. Of course, not only the humans are suffering, and so many millions, billions of people are suffering, because not only the war, you have, of course, hunger, you have so many terrible situations in our world today, and nature. Billions of animals also are suffering. So it's quite absurd, because we could live in peace, we could live in harmony, we could create. This is my personal view, and I'm convinced we could create a beautiful world all together. So it's quite absurd, that we are in this kind of dead end. And so it is really, really important that whoever you are, wherever you are, you find a way, whatever the spiritual path you are on, or maybe you have your own personal development tools, whatever. And also, of course, you have, I hope, a network of friends, of people, but you have to find a way to give meaning to the current situation. Otherwise, you will not be able to face, because again, I'm afraid that it will get worse before it gets better. This is the kind of mega trend, you know? So everyone here has to, of course, work on the type 1 resilience on a daily basis, and also to find some meaning to what is going on here, whatever the way. And to finish with, okay, how to improve your type 2 resilience. I will send this document to RT on a PDF format, and so if you want to have access to it, you will be able. What is really important is never to ask myself the question, why me? There is a spiritual perspective that will say that there is always some reason for every situation. And of course, I may not see these reasons, but let me have the faith that there are some reasons. And anyway, if I ask this question, why me, it will lead me nowhere. No, let me go into the eye of the storm, and then let me ask, for instance, these are just examples. You can create your own questions. What am I really facing now? What do I need to develop? So I hope it's clear for type 2 resilience. And then you have some bouncing back quotes. So again, you will have them in the document if you want to have access to that. I really like, you know, the Maya Angelou's quote, or and of course Nelson Mandela. Unfortunately, I don't know who is the gentleman at the in the lower part of the slide, but I think it's a nice quote also. So again, it's our mindset. So let us work on our mindset, and let us know how to give meanings to what we are facing, or the situations in which we are. To finish with, I would like to mention something that is really more typical of Raj Yoga. Raj Yoga pretty much encompasses all what we have said, but really a path of meditation will allow us to work on our type 3 resilience, which is a way again to go into the eye of the storm and to detach ourselves. Let me detach myself not only from the situation, but let me detach myself from myself in a way, from my old patterns of thinkings, from my familiar emotions. Let me not push back my emotions. No, I acknowledge my emotions. And I think that's what I managed to do last September, you know, the day my mother passed away. I was sad, I was angry, so I welcome these emotions. And I did not say, oh no, I am peaceful. No. But at the end of the day, yes, a regular practice of what we call in Raj Yoga soul consciousness. So realizing that we are beings, like we are spiritual beings playing a role in a material world, and that's what we call soul consciousness. And the soul, or the atma, or this beautiful point of consciousness that plays the role in the material world, is full of beauty, full of peace. And so let me go back to that space again and again. And of course, then my resilience will increase even more. And then if you want to go a step further, of course, divine consciousness, let me be aware that I'm not alone. No one is alone here on this earth. I can guarantee that, even if you don't believe in any kind of spiritual entity or any kind of divinity, I can assure you, and I think that many other could assure you, not only in Raj Yoga, that yes, there is a kind of presence, there is a kind of benevolent energy that really is taking care of every one of us. And the more I open my heart to this possibility, then of course, the more I will become resilient, and I will be able to bounce back. So this is type 3 resilience. Let me be able to detach from the situation, detach from myself, and connect to the deepest part of the self, connects to the original self, and then connect to the divine if I want to, if I'm open to that possibility. All right. So anyone here could and should boost one's type 1 resilience, type 2 resilience, type 3 resilience. If you don't remember what this means, this is not important. You will have the document. You can ask also in the questions. And let us all collectively increase our global resilience, because the world needs people like that. You know, so many people are mentally suffering nowadays. So let us become stronger and stronger, so that other people, you know, can rely on us. Let us finish with a few minutes of meditation. So there have been many words, many concepts, many ideas. But now I am in the present, and these ideas, these concepts are already in the past. I'm sitting quietly, I am breathing gently. And if I want, I can focus my attention on the point of light. Or if my eyes are closed, I can imagine the point of light on the screen of my mind. And my mind is slowing down more and more. And if my mind is not slowing down, then I can talk to my mind. Oh, please, now relax. You have nothing to do right now. In the now, you have no responsibility. In the now, you have no role to play. So I have no role to play in the now. I have no responsibility, nothing to do. Let me become a human being instead of a human doing. Let me feel the peace, the love and compassion and the beauty within. And to finish with, if I am willing, let me open my heart to the presence of the divine. In silence, I am recharging the self. There's nothing to do, just being. Om Shanti. Thank you so much for your attention and your time.
Thank you for making our attention so easy to keep. It was a very, very step-by-step approach that made it possible for us to go, oh yeah, I can do that. Or that's a
Hopefully.
question that we can follow. So thank you. Very practical, but very deep. Stephane, the first question I have for you is, could you show the slide where you had the 4 questions for people to ask themselves? Is that possible?
Oh, yes, sure, definitely. It's not that far. Not that far.
And while Stephane is looking for it,
yeah.
a few of you are kindly sending me your email. Please don't put it in the chat. If you would like to receive the documents that Stephane is going to send me, please, could you email info@innerspace.org.uk, and I'll be very happy to send you the document. I'll put that in chat as well.
Is this I think this is the slide you were mentioning, huh?
Yes,
Oops, sorry. Okay, sorry.
it's
Yep. Once again, yeah.
yes. So while someone's looking at that, I will ask you another question. What about if somebody is emotionally intelligent, spiritually aware, and has a lot of common sense, who has had meltdowns that make no sense and doesn't know why? They're not an anxious person, but it's very difficult to understand what's going on, and it's frustrating for them.
It's a beautiful question, and I think I can relate to that very much because I've said to all of you that I've been on a spiritual path, so the Raja Yoga path, for 32 years, but still I have honestly to admit that uh, even nowadays, sometimes there are some very powerful, I don't know, streams, coming from deeply in the subconscious, and that does not seem to make sense, because most of the time I manage to be rather peaceful and positive and optimistic, but sometimes, there's a kind of eruption. So I think this is what the person is describing here. So what do I do? Again, and I think it is also here mentioned in the point number 3. uh, I do my best, to take care of myself, to still be gentle with myself, to be positive with myself. In fact, I definitely think we have no choice, but in a good way. We have no choice. We human beings, because our very nature is the nature of being positive, being optimistic, and all those beautiful qualities. So we have no choice, even when there are those setbacks. And again, I still have that from time to time nowadays, these kind of eruptions that do not make sense. But, we are like icebergs, so the depth of our subconscious and unconscious, the unconscious part of the self, in some streams of psychotherapy, they would say 99% of the self is unconscious. Some they say only 90%, but some they go as far as 99%. Or can you imagine? Even 90%. So anything can erupt. So let me be gentle with myself. Let me, as they say, I fall 9 times. Let me stand up 10 times. We have no choice. And also, I hope that for the person who asked this question, never, never forget that the source, the divine, is always here for you, even maybe if you don't feel that, but definitely the source is here. And if I'm open to that possibility, the source will find a way to help me. And sometimes maybe I will not be able to give sense to what I've been through. And that's why resilience, type 2 resilience, sometimes it will not be possible to activate that because it's so absurd. So that's why, or that's when type 3 resilience will come handy. Then again, let me detach from that as much as possible, and let me take care of myself, and then let me be taken care of by the source. I mean, I'm not so sure that this will help you, but this is so far what has worked for me, and which makes that I'm still walking on the path towards the true self.
Mm. I think you've answered this next question already, but I'm going to put it to you in case there's something else you want to add specifically. How can someone build resilience when they feel overwhelmed or burnt out? Someone who has ill health and has had a lot of physical and mental fatigue.
Hmm. Everyone is unique. Every situation is unique, and of course, for some of us, well, when we start, we may face a lot of challenges, and again, I will not say where there's a will, there's a way, but there is a nice saying, and I think more gentle, and I think it's very much connected to the culture of India again. If I make a step of courage, then again, the source of the universe, but for me, I would prefer to mention about the source or the divine, will make 1,000 steps to help me. So let me just find maybe just, a tiny action that I can implement in the now. Perhaps it's just better taking care of myself, drinking a bit of water, or if it's possible, maybe going out if I can. But if I can, then maybe let me have the courage to call a friend, because maybe I was just feeling very very lonely. So whatever it is, but let me make this first step of courage, or let me create this new tiny habit. There are a lot of ideas now and research about the power of tiny habits. The tiny habits can change a lot of things in our life at the end of the day, at the end of the year. So there is no other way. And let me perhaps be inspired, by the people, who face very tough difficulties. For instance, in 2024 in France, there were the Paralympic, of course, there were the Olympic Games, but also the Paralympic. I was very moved, when I saw the person. He was a swimmer, I think from Brazil. He had no arms, no legs, but his smile was so real and coming from the heart. And on top of that, he was winning the medal. So let me inspire myself and feed my mind with positive energy. There is no other way. I have to feed my mind with slightly and gradually more and more positive thoughts. I have to breathe. I mean, in such difficult circumstances, I would try to pay attention to the three types of resilience at the same time. And of course, I will try my best to have a network of positive people around me. I hope this will help.
Thank you. Very practical again. I know we've overrun, but this is going to be the last question, even though there are many. So I'm sorry we're not answering everybody's question. How do you detach from a situation when your mind is compelled to keep going back to it? You're on mute. Stephane, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. Can you repeat the question, please? I think I missed it.
Yes, I can. The question is, how do you detach from a situation when your mind is compelled to keep going back to it?
Yes, of course. It happens to all of us. It happens to all of us. This is very human. How to work on that? First of all, if my mind is compelled to do that, so I think first of all, I would consider that it's a good sign that most likely I am too identified to the situation. I am too identified with the role I play in that situation, or to the responsibility I carry out, or it may be too identified to the relationship. So it's a good sign, if I'm on a path where I want to become more and more free. But what I would do, I would try to again work at the level of emotions first. And so let me try to identify what are really the emotions that run through my body when I'm thinking of this situation, or when I'm facing this situation. Just giving you an example. Not so long ago, when thinking of a very, very long-term relationship, I think maybe more than 20 years, 20 years relationship, I could see that the quality, the nature of the relationship had changed, because I was very close to that person. She was a real friend. But then after time, especially during COVID time, there was not so much connection. And every time I was thinking of this person, I was feeling angry. And I was thinking quite often of this person, but I didn't want to feel angry because this person is a friend, right? And at what point I decided, okay, Stefan, push the pause button and ask to yourself the question, what do you really feel? Because you have no reason to be angry, even if the nature, the quality of the relationship is not the same as it used to be, but this person has not done any harm to you. Then I could feel really that beneath anger, there was some sadness. Then it was really an aha moment because when I could really feel that sadness, I could welcome that sadness, in my heart, within my heart. And because I could understand that this sadness was coming from the fact that, there was a kind of, there was this change in a relationship. And of course, for me, I was not happy about that. But it was a relief because as I welcomed the feeling of sadness, I didn't feel the anger anymore. And then the feeling of sadness also vanished after some time. So, I think that for many of us, at least in the West, we are not that much emotionally literate, at least for the men, at least for the men. For the ladies, maybe it's different. For the women, it's different. But still, because the pace of the daily life is so intense, sometimes we don't know how to process our emotions, or we don't know how to welcome. So let me welcome the emotions. Let me really discriminate what are the emotions so connected to some specific sensations that go through the body. Let me welcome that. Let me see the needs. What are the needs? Because every emotion that we feel is created because there is a need that is met. So then it will be a pleasant emotion, or a need that is not met, and it will be an unpleasant emotion. So in my case, again, there was this need of a different connection. That's why I felt the sadness. So I worked at that level. And then, of course, I have to work again at the level of thoughts. Let me reframe the situation. Let me understand that nothing is eternal in life. As they used to say in the world of surfing, there is no wave that lasts forever, but there is always another wave. And so I have to work at both level. And of course, for me, what I use a lot, of course, is the support of the source. I talk a lot to the source. And also what I do is journaling. Journaling is terrific in a most positive way. Journaling every day. Oh, I feel like that. Oh, today I don't want to write anything, but I still write. And what did I feel today? And oh, I've realized that. And of course, also feeding the mind with a lot of gratitude, because whatever happens, you always, I mean, in my view, it's always possible for a human being to think at the end of the day, oh, but something positive happened today. There was some sunshine, or I met this old friend, or there was this book, or I had this nice dish. And so let me increase my resilience and my ability to bounce back by feeding my mind with those feelings of gratitude and thoughts of gratitude. And so gradually I should be able to um, detach myself from this situation where I go back again and again to the situation. But of course, everyone is unique, and it will depend of the intensity of the situation. So sometimes it will take some time. So let me be patient. Let me be gentle with myself. If again and again I fall into a kind of trap, then that means it's not now, but it will happen. Ye hoga, as they say in Hindi, definitely it will happen if I'm honest with myself, and if I manage to stay optimistic and positive.
Thank you very, very much for making time and sharing all your insights.